These weapons have changed the course of the war.
We make the most effective deep strike weapons in the world.
Ukraine has become one of the world's top drone producers. Ground combat robots and missiles.
The FP9 will hit targets in Moscow with ease.
How did Ukraine build a massive industry producing modern weapons? Hundreds of companies turning out tens of thousands of drones and robots every single day. Why are the strongest, richest countries in the world now asking to share in these technologies? Has Ukraine pulled a step ahead of Russia in developing its defense industry? And will strikes on Moscow by new Ukrainian ballistic missiles force Putin to end the war? Watch in our special report, Millions of Drones and Robots, how Ukraine is mass-producing the weapons of the future. Here they build long-range drones that fly deep into Russia and strike fuel depots. Ammunition depots and other military targets. Every month there are more of these explosions, and that's a direct result of what's happening right here, in the workshops of the Firepoint company. Production of the FP1 and FP2 drones has been scaled up. Since 2025, output has doubled. Right now they're turning out around 6,000 long-range drones a month, and over time that number will only grow, meaning more strikes more often. On the most sensitive points of Putin's war machine. These aren't wonder weapons. The engineers behind the FP1 and FP2 admit there's no exotic technology inside them. Their real advantage is simplicity. Engineering worked out down to the smallest detail to make mass production possible with minimal time and money. They cost several times less, sometimes even 10 times less, than their Western equivalents.
When we designed the FP1 and FP2, we designed them from the start to be cheap and easy to mass produce. Yes, there are excellent systems out there, including Western ones, but they can't be scaled up at the same low cost in the same quantities. The FP1 and FP2 were built specifically for mass production. We're probably one of the largest producers of this class of drone in the world. In terms of units, we produce more of this drone class than anyone else on the planet.
These drones have already proven themselves in combat. That's according to Robert Brovdy, callsign Magyar, commander of Ukraine's unmanned systems forces.
Here in Ukraine, we make the most effective deep strike weapons of this war. I won't say the best in the world, but the most effective, because they get there and they burn down whatever target they're sent after, and they're adapted to new conditions extremely fast because the enemy is constantly looking for ways to upgrade its air defenses and invent new ways to counter our drones.
To get past those defenses, Ukrainian drones are constantly being upgraded.
Most often, it's the software that changes. The hardware for countering electronic warfare gets updated too, along with improvements to navigation, so everything keeps working even when communications are being jammed.
The soldiers using these drones are the ones who say exactly what needs to be modified, adjusted, improved. Engineers gather that feedback from them literally around the clock.
Sometimes a crew spots a problem at night, and by the time they get back from the mission, the engineering team already has a work order the next morning. That's how these drones get updated regularly to keep up with what the front line needs today, tomorrow, and the day after. Feedback from the troops is gathered very actively.
The FP1 and FP2 differ on the inside. On the outside, they're almost identical, built on the same base airframe. Around 200 of these drones are produced every day. They can strike deep inside Russia. at ranges of up to 1,600 kilometers. For that, they're fitted with a large fuel tank and a relatively small warhead. But for an oil refinery or a fuel depot, that's more than enough. The same drones can also be used to hit Russian positions near the front line. For that, they're fitted with a bigger warhead and a smaller fuel tank, which lets the drone fly up to 300 kilometers. Ukrainian long-range drones keep being upgraded. Some models can now do more than just hit Russian military sites. They can launch their own missiles at targets. Here's what Ukraine's first missile-carrying drone looks like. Ukrainian engineers are working to push these drones' range further and further. A real competition has emerged over who can deliver the best results.
We're talking at least 15 different manufacturers and different models with different ranges, different control methods, with GPS support, without GPS, with other navigation methods, and so on.
Drones built by these companies are already hitting targets up to 2,000 kilometers from the front line. The Ludi, Polanitsa, Peklo, Bobber drones are striking oil refineries and weapons plants deep in Russia's rear. Some Ukrainian designs can reach targets as far as 3,500 kilometers away, putting the entire European part of Russia within range, all the way to the Urals. When it comes to producing long-range drones, Ukraine has now overtaken even its Western allies.
No European country has the ability to strike beyond 1,500 kilometers with conventional weapons, period. And we know that in Germany and Italy, there are already calls to urgently buy long-range systems that have been battle-tested in Ukraine. Because apart from a very small number of French cruise missiles, everything else long-range that they have is just projects, mock-ups, that might become something real sometime in the 2030s. And until then, they have nothing.
And until recently, European countries had no effective way to counter Russia's long-range drones either. Russia is now launching them by the hundreds every day at Ukraine, sometimes more than 1,000. More than once, they've already strayed into EU airspace. Ukrainian engineers have developed interceptor drones like these. The country has set up mass production of them. It's thanks to that alone that Ukraine manages to shoot down most Russian drones. This is one of the drones designed specifically to destroy aerial targets.
We already have confirmed hits, official statistics, specifically for this drone of ours. 4,500 aerial targets destroyed already, and that's over just 6 months.
Manufacturers are doing everything they can to stop relying on Chinese components.
It runs on a Ukrainian flight controller. It's the brain of the drone, also made in Ukraine. We buy and support everything Ukrainian manufacturers make.
Some of the parts are already made on 3D printers. They run around the clock.
So the components are more convenient and more functional. We started with 3 small printers and everything had to be tuned by hand. Now it's 70 printers just at this one facility, and we have plenty of facilities like this.
Now EU countries are picking up interceptor drone technology from Ukraine too, since they're bracing for possible Russian aggression. EU states are setting up joint ventures with Ukrainian companies and putting money in. Germany, for instance, will finance production of 15,000 Ukrainian Strela interceptor drones. These drones are now being built not just in Ukraine, but in EU countries as well. The German company Thyra and Ukraine's TF Industries, for example, have agreed to mass-produce interceptor drones in Germany. The US and the Gulf states are also very interested in this technology. They've come under attack from Iranian drones and didn't have enough ways to counter them. They were forced to shoot them down with expensive Patriot missiles at $4 million apiece, while a Ukrainian interceptor drone, which will bring down a Shahed just as well, costs about $2,000 on average. Right now, there is only one country in the world mass-producing interceptor drones, That's Ukraine.
Ukraine has mass-produced system-level solutions for using anti-aircraft drones, so it's hard to even talk about competitors. Objectively, right now, they simply don't exist anywhere else in the world. Ukraine does this very fast and at massive scale, but there's simply no other option. No other country has to repel attacks of 1,500 drones a day.
Ukraine is also one of the world's leaders in producing strike FPV drones. The country has reached an output of 4 million of these drones a year and could produce 20 million FPVs if it had enough funding. All the capacity for that is already there.
That's an absolute fact. We carry out around 10,000 kamikaze drone strikes a day. This is a full-fledged industry with its own labor market now. There are specialists who put on their resumes that they're engineers in this field. Market leaders have already emerged.
In total, at least 500 companies are operating in this space. They work independently of each other, trying to build the most effective weapon at the lowest possible cost. To make that happen, the state has cut red tape, created financial incentives, and set transparent rules. Here's how the country's defense minister sees it.
We want to kill the enemy, and you can kill them with effective weapons. You have to factor in the math of war, especially in a war of attrition, and you can only get there if there's competition in the market. We gave the market its rules of the game.
The key phrase here is the math of war. Ukraine is doing everything it can to bring down the cost of every drone it makes, so it can make more of them. The numbers on the board behind Magyar keep changing. They show the number of Russian occupiers eliminated. There's even a known figure now for how many drones and how much money it takes to kill one Russian soldier.
That figure is $882. I think that's a very good exchange rate, plastic and metal, for the life of an occupier. And on top of that, every dollar invested in drones translates into $100 of losses for the enemy.
Understanding that, Ukrainians are ramping up FPV drone production at a tremendous pace. People are building these companies, pouring all their money and effort into growing them, and in doing so, making a huge contribution to defending their homeland.
Ukrainians are super ambitious. That's exactly what a lot of European countries are missing, that kind of ambition. Yes, Ukrainians are super ambitious, and I like that. We factor that into how our ministry's team works. Ambition. Why not build the best in the world? Where can we do it more efficiently? And then you walk in and see a company that's made it into the top 3 drone producers, billions in revenue and production run so tightly that nothing is wasted, every penny is counted, and the price of the drone is low, competitive.
Drones are assembled in thousands of workshops scattered across every corner of Ukraine. The people working there include seasoned engineers, students, and even women in their 50s who never had any technical experience before this.
I'm actually a lawyer by trade. Since my husband is serving right now, I feel like I need to help and everyone should join in. Every single person should be doing something toward victory.
Now, this woman is one of the most experienced workers on the line. She says it's hard at first, but once you get the hang of it, the work gets easier, like putting together a construction set.
First, I assemble the frame, then I mount the motors, and after that, everything else, tail units, cameras.
The battery goes on top and gets connected, and the explosive charge is fitted underneath, so the payload can be delivered wherever it needs to go.
The drones are tested away from prying eyes, indoors. Some companies that started out as small volunteer projects have gradually scaled up to industrial-level production. Drones are a consumable, and the country needs a huge number of them.
Ukraine is now the biggest producer of strike FPV drones in the world. No other country produces more.
Ukrainian companies are building AI-powered drones that can take over control themselves and still hit the target if they lose the link with the operator. They're also developing drones that can fire on enemy positions using a grenade launcher. But Ukraine's real advantage is still the sheer scale and low cost of its FPV drones, which lets it inflict enormous losses on Russian occupying forces and expand the kill zone, the stretch of the front where any movement is spotted instantly and the target is destroyed. And that kill zone could widen by another 50 kilometers.
That's an entirely obvious trajectory. As new systems are developed, alternative communication links are developed, and the airspace gets saturated with these systems. And as artificial intelligence works its way into all of it, the density of fire will only increase, and that will cut the odds of anyone surviving inside that kill zone down to almost nothing.
There are thousands of workshops like this one across the country. And here, work runs around the clock in 2 shifts. This is where they build unmanned ground vehicles, UGVs for short. Ukraine has become one of the world's leaders in this field too, just as it has with drones. This is the shop floor of one of the country's biggest manufacturers. Hundreds of ground robots are produced here every month, then tested out on a range. This particular UGV can carry more than 400 kilograms of cargo, delivering shells to artillery crews, for example. It's operated by remote control, over 100 kilometers away via satellite link.
All these ground robotic systems are lightly armored. They're fully protected against shrapnel. Even without a direct hit, the robot will most likely still complete its mission. Even if it hits an anti-personnel mine and loses a wheel, it will keep running.
Production of these UGVs keeps scaling up. In 2025, output grew 4-fold. This year, it's set to grow another 6-fold. To make that happen, new workshop space is being added and new people hired, and they're learning the job fast.
It's a huge leap, and that's only natural. Every war like this has been followed by a technological revolution, and that's exactly what's happening in Ukraine now. The number of specialists is growing at an enormous rate.
The company has set itself a goal to produce as many components as possible inside Ukraine. Chinese parts are gradually being phased out, and so are components from Western countries.
A whole ecosystem is emerging to make that happen. We're getting new contractors coming to us and saying, look, you were sourcing this from Germany, but I can make it cheaper right here in Western Ukraine.
These UGVs are constantly being improved. They get upgraded every 2 months.
In 2025, this was a robot with 1 camera and radio communication. Now, a little over a year later, it has 3 cameras. We raised the ground clearance a bit. On top of radio, we've added mobile network connectivity and Starlink. We've also made it so the operator can see engine temperature and RPM, so they know when it's overheating. And we added 2 batteries inside.
And all of that is thanks to feedback from the troops.
They tell us we wanted this and that changed, and we collect that information from the military, technical data on breakdowns, technical notes on how it handles terrain, how missions go, what needs to be added.
UGVs are being fitted with machine guns. They open fire on Russian occupying forces. And here, a kamikaze UGV loaded with 300 kilograms of explosives blows up a building Russian soldiers were firing from. And it was in Ukraine, for the first time in history, that an enemy position was taken using nothing but unmanned platforms, ground robots, and drones. And here's a Ukrainian design, a ground robot that carries 6 drones on board. Ground robotic systems are literally saving the lives of Ukrainian soldiers. They're sent into the most dangerous sections of the front.
Robots should be the ones fighting.
Robots deliver supplies under fire, crossing mined ground. They evacuate the wounded. Every day there are more UGVs on the front line. Almost 300 companies in Ukraine are now developing UGVs like these. It's become an entire industry that essentially grew from nothing. Ukraine is scaling up UGV production. The state has signed contracts with manufacturers worth 11 billion hryvnias, around $260 million. In 2026, the country will produce 50,000 ground robots for the front. Ukraine has also developed its first precision-guided aerial bomb and has already run successful tests. And the country has its own missiles too, long-range Neptunes and Flamingos, which have been used, among other things, to strike a plant in Votkinsk, 1,500 kilometers from the front line, where Russia's strategic missiles were being built. And Ukraine's fire point is also developing a ballistic missile, the FP9. Its combat use is already planned for this year. It will be far harder to shoot down than drones, able to break through even Moscow's dense air defense rings.
The FP9 will let us carry the war into Moscow. It started there, and that's where it should end. There's a huge difference between shooting down ballistic targets and shooting down drones. A ballistic trajectory works in such a way that any Moscow air defense system trying to intercept it will only see the missile at the final stage of its approach to the target. The Russians may only have a small number of systems capable of shooting down missiles like this, or maybe none at all. That's exactly why long-range ballistic missiles are what could radically change the course of this war.
The company has also developed the Freya interceptor missile, designed to shoot down Russian ballistic missiles. It has already had several successful test launches. This is what defense looks like. This is what strength looks like, the desire for freedom and justice. These words from Volodymyr Zelensky, spoken amid Ukraine's defense industry achievements, made headlines around the world. Ukraine is now seen as one of the most powerful weapons producers on the planet.
And this is what independence looks like. These are the tools to defend it, the arguments to win peace. In 4 years, Ukraine has built a new defense industry, large-scale and effective. The words "made in Ukraine" have become synonymous with strong and effective. We can already be proud of all this, but we are certainly not going to stop here. These are only our first steps. The industry will keep growing, and the enemy will feel it.
All of these weapons will help Ukraine stop Putin's army and then become part of Europe's security system. That's exactly why European politicians are calling for more support for Ukraine. In return, they get a strong ally, and in effect, a guarantee of their own security.
Instead of us talking about what Ukraine needs from Europe, perhaps we should start thinking what we in Europe need from Ukraine. We in Europe have to get out of the mindset that it's only us helping Ukraine. We have to ask ourselves the question, how can Ukraine help us?
Ukraine has received a large amount of Western weaponry, and it helped the country hold the line. And it's still helping repel Russian attacks today. But now, more than half of the weapons Ukraine uses on the front line are made by Ukrainian companies. This is Ukrainian weaponry, and it's what's taking out most of the Russian occupying forces. And Ukraine could increase production of these weapons even further if it gets enough funding. The West has missiles, drones, artillery systems that huge sums of money have gone into, and that cost a great deal. Ukraine, on the other hand, has managed to build weapons that are many times cheaper, while still proving highly effective under the conditions of modern warfare. Unlike Western countries, Ukraine repels attacks every single day and gains experience doing it. That experience gets translated into optimal engineering solutions that actually work. It's building the weapons of the future, working toward a world where robots and drones replace more and more people on the front line, to make the cost of this war unacceptable for Russia, and in doing so, bring peace closer. Maxim Urlapov, Special Report.